How do you prepare for a game? Today on Out of Character. Welcome to Out of Character. I'm Jason Corley.
I'm Don Dem.
I'm Derek Rex.
And in the engineer's booth today is Scott Forrester.
Hello again.
Today we're going to talk about how you prepare for a game. And what I'm really thinking about here is you're getting ready to have the game session with your normal group, or maybe the first session with a new group. It's probably at your house or someone else's.
And this is a regular session. You're not talking about preparing a campaign. You're talking about...
Yeah, like what do you do before like a normal session? What are some of the things that you do to prepare to make that session be its best? And I know for a lot of people, a lot of gamers, and I don't mean just GMs, I mean for players too, a lot of that, the answer is, remember that I have a game today, throw my books in my bag and run to the session as fast as I can.
Yeah.
But I found that things improve when you prepare. So I wanted to know what you guys do to prepare for a session.
Well, I call everybody up and say, remember there's a game.
Remember there's a game. I'm that guy in our group. I send an email every week.
No, I think it varies quite a bit depending on personality and the type of ways in which you run your game, whether they're more off the cuff. Because even that's a misconception that if you're running the game off the cuff, there's still preparedness that needs to happen. Right?
Exactly. In what way?
Well, in the way that, okay, let's use D&D, where you've got creatures that have stats, and you know that they may encounter this. You just don't know where. You don't know. It might not even be tonight, but we know that here's an adversary. So you have to at least kind of decide how they fight, what their motives are, things like this. So it's less about preparing what's going to happen in the adventure, but what they're surrounded with. So just familiarize yourself with that, and then you're able to handle any curveballs that get thrown at you.
I'm a big fan of making sure that I've got everything ready to go. The one thing I absolutely hate to do as a game master is be flipping through the books. Trying or running
like tabs
monsters
or something. Yeah. I've seen you do that.
If someone's going to be drowning this episode, I've got to know the drowning rules in advance.
And it's either go through those once again or have a note on my pages of notes or whatever that says, hey, if you got to look it up, go to page 95. Be ready to go. Have it marked in there. I'm a big fan of writing all over my books too. I paid money for them. They're mine, by God. I'll do whatever the hell I want.
This is my collector's edition signed copy of
You can put like a sticky note that covers art, because art is useless to you. So just write on the sticky notes.
I appreciate the art.
But
it gets me in the mood. Talking with Don did, if
errata, I've seen you just tape right over errata and write it back in. Yeah.
And if I'm going to have a combat that I'm planning on having, I like to sort of plan out the first rounds or two of the combat, and then let it see how it goes. This is what the creature, the adversary, would do if things were going the way he or she expected it, and it never goes that way. But at least I'm ready. I'm ready to start off.
Right.
Well, one thing that I have found is that what I try to do is find an area that I'm trying to improve. With my last game and even the game before that, I was trying to improve the physical description of scenes and NPCs, because I got too caught up in what the players were trying to do and kind of the forward motion of the plot, and they were questioning people, and I had never said out loud what that person looked like or who they were really physically. So what I decided to do was I put in my notebook a physical detail, a physical description, and then before the game started, I would say it out loud several times. That way, if it sounded weird or if I used the wrong word, I could edit it in advance. This is why boxed text exists in every module, so that people can read it in advance and know how it sounds. If you practice it, it's going to come out better and people are going to understand it more.
And one thing we learned a long time ago, we had the RPGA representatives come and talk to us about presenting prepared modules, and the one thing he did discuss was read the box text, read it a second time, read it a third time, except for when you're at the game table. Don't read the box text.
Oh, really?
At the game table.
That's interesting.
Paraphrase it.
Yeah, it's another way of going about at it, because you have the if you're just reading the paper, I think this is what's trying to prevent.
Yeah.
How exciting is that? You want to bring that to life.
You get your hands free. You start talking,
become that character.
Yeah. Scott, what do? You've got an ongoing D&D campaign. What do you do to prepare for a typical session?
I've got an ongoing 4th edition game right now, and it's pretty tightly plotted because I'm following the pre-made adventures, but it's kind of spun off in its own direction. So what I try to do is I make sure that I've got an idea of what parts of plot are coming out now, and because it's not all my plot and I haven't necessarily read it all, I try and read ahead and go, okay, I need to make sure and have somebody talk about this thing that's going to happen a month from now and that sort of thing. But then,
do you find that there's a difference between doing a pre-prepared, and this is for everybody, do you find that there's a difference between doing a pre-prepared module and doing something you design yourself?
Oh, definitely. It's easier for me at the table to run something I've designed myself because I can just do whatever I want and make it make sense later. If
at all.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm running, I'd hate to be like, yeah, the guy who's driving the carriage, you killed him. Okay. Oh, darn it. He's supposed to be, the prime minister's nephew who has this whole plot line. Oops, I forgot that note, so, yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys? Do you see any difference in doing a pre-prepared scenario versus
it's funny you mention that because I think Derek is very much preparing the scenarios. You like that advantage of having that, and I'm just the opposite. I can't stand it. But yeah, beyond the obvious, Derek, you're probably better versed at talking about the difference.
Well, and certainly you do, but I never have ever liked being locked into what the author has told me has to go on. Jason, you made it. You said the worst thing that could ever be put into any sort of module is no matter what the players do, make sure that this is going to happen. And once you articulated that to me, it really hit home with me because you're right.
Yeah.
If the
what's the point of
players,
playing if no matter what they do,
surprise
this is
me
happen.
and it's going to challenge the end result of the module, well then I've got a challenge to continue going and making it meet their expectations, but meet mine too.
Yeah,
I think the happy ground for anybody in the middle, or for a lot of people, is in the middle because the modules are source material. It's like tell the story you want to tell, change names, change whatever it is you want to do, and just rip apart the module as much or as little as you need to in order to have a good time with it. Sometimes, I've seen some modules put together very well. It's like it doesn't matter what happens; that there's a natural flow that's built in. Everything's consistent. It makes sense. Here's clues. You don't have to watch. Follow them in a specific order, and it works. I've seen others. It's like here's a railroad, and there's no opportunity for them to get off, and you're like, well, that's not going to work.
Why am I even here?
Yeah. So
I'm going to give two quick tips. First is kind of gross, but please brush your teeth. If you do that before your game, you'll find that you articulate things better, your mouth is clean, and your players will appreciate that.
We should do that before we do the show, too.
Yeah, I'm wondering which one of the two of us he's trying to
it's got to be a hint.
It's video, it's not smell-o-vision. Thank God. So yes, brush your teeth. And secondly, if you physically stretch out your body before your players get there, like seriously, go and like do some touch your toes, do a couple of jumping jacks.
This is the next show on the Pulp Gamer Network.
Yeah, that's right.
That is RPG exercises.
The Game Master workout.
Yeah,
but in all seriousness, it gets the blood flowing. It wakes you up. You're going to be sitting on your butt in a chair for the next 3 hours. So.
Yep.
Well, maybe plan that at some point during the game, you're going to get out of the chair at a very dramatic moment. Plan for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I like to stand when I do an entire game, actually.
Yeah, me too. I do a lot of games standing. And then I found a stool, so now I can loom over my my group.
I make a good performance if I stand. I'm into the game.
You've seen our current setup in the friggin' living room with everyone sprawled all over the place. Standing just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Someday I'll be at a table.
Someday. Keep nudging them that way.
I know. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so. So that's how you prepare for a game. You read the material, you make it your own, you plan specifically for what you're going to say, if that means writing down a specific phrase or detail. You prepare for what you anticipate the players are going to do. If you ask them, oftentimes they'll tell you what they're going to do. And if you're a player or a GM, just be alert and ready to go. If you're not alert and ready to go, you're going to spend a lot of time just sort of treading water until you're able to wake up and remember that you're at a game.
It's funny. I just to kind of put a button back on that whole ask them, because before you leave for the day, what are you guys planning on doing next time? You do that great.
Yeah.
And that does give you a little bit of a hint. And it might not go that way, but at least you have something to think about.
In the intervening 2 weeks, they're like, we tricked that GM. He's not going to know what we're going to do.
Here's where I do all my, when I'm driving. That's what I do. A lot of my planning. I love that brain space, you know, when you're driving. I used to have an hour commute. That's what I do.
All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Next week, we will talk about what is the definition of a gamer. Talk to us on Twitter and Facebook. And if you have any questions, just just let us know. We'll be happy to answer them. Thanks.
Good night.
PulpGamer.com